Oh, look at that, straight to the page. Now, with the right microphone plugged in, I can start again. It's cold in here. Welcome back everyone, it's Robert Macfarlane here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tom Hanks' latest movie, Greyhound, and how it uses non-diegetic sound in a really unique way. So Greyhound is actually based on a book which came out in 1955 called The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forester. Greyhound, the film itself, was actually written or adapted by Tom Hanks and directed by Aaron Schneider. The film is all about a bunch of cargo vessels being transported across the Atlantic Ocean, and these 30 or 40 vessels are being guarded by 3 or 4 battleships. They're given some intel, rather late, that there's going to definitely be a lot of U-boats on their journey across the Atlantic. So there's a lot of really interesting detail in this film, and it's actually been noted by many other writers as well that this film is quite accurate. There are a couple of inconsistencies I think that's been brought in for a little more dramatic measure. We're going to focus on the way in which Aaron Schneider, the director, has chosen to use non-diegetic sound. Now, for those of you who don't know what non-diegetic sound is, it's not the music, but what it is sound that's been placed into a scene or a shot that wasn't actually there in the moment. So, for instance, if I put voiceover over the top of this particular bit of footage, like now, and as I'm not really talking, this is actually non-diegetic. So you see how that works? That actually enables you to bring in sound, not just voiceover. You can bring in other sounds over the top of your footage to help tell your story. If you want to know more about sound design and composing within film, check out one of my previous episodes where I actually discuss composing and how some filmmakers have actually chosen their music before they even start filming. Greyhound does this in a really interesting way. It actually characterizes the U-boats with a really unique, eerie sound. When I was watching the film recently, one of the very first things I recognized was just how unusual and unique this sound was. It's not unusual that filmmakers have used non-diegetic sound to help convey a character. But what was unusual, there was barely any other non-diegetic sound in the film. The director had saved this sound for the antagonist specifically. But because we never actually meet the commander of the U-boats, we're left with somewhat of a vacuum, a lack of a persona to place upon the U-boats and how dastardly and evil they are. We know that their goal is to destroy the boats crossing the Atlantic, but what makes that even more effective is when we feel that there is some characterization behind it. We understand the types of humans that are in these boats. Now, at first I thought this sound was just merely a whale sound, mimicking the whales which would come to the surface and then dip down again, being lost underneath the waves. But actually, if you listen closely, it's more eerie than that. Whales generally have a deeper sound to them. These are higher pitched whining, almost ethereal. And I think this was a very concerted effort from Aaron Schneider to unsettle us. It's not quite natural. We start to recognize when we hear this sound, ooh, we're with the U-boats. We start to create what is known as cinematic language. And yes, cinematic language doesn't necessarily always mean the visuals. It can also be the sound. And this is a really powerful and effective way of telling us who we are with through our ears. Quite often there is a lot of use of magnification through binoculars, through screens, through radars, all sorts of sound effects, all sorts of sensors are being used throughout the film. So to help let us know who is watching who from where, this sound also lets us know that, oh, this isn't another ship looking at one of the ships. This is the U-boat looking at the ships. The U-boats always know where the ships are. This increases the threat dramatically. Just through us knowing whose perspective we're looking through, we understand, therefore, that the U-boats have a massive advantage.
Aren't you and your friends Eagle, Vicky, and Harry?
Once Aaron Schneider built the rule in our minds that this sound means U-boats, we start to feel tense because of the threat which the U-boats mean. Aaron Schneider can actually get us to start feeling tension before we even see the U-boats. We can hear the sound, the wailing, eerie sound, as the U-boat emerges from the water. So we are almost set up with tension, only for it to become even more tense and effective when we see them because of the sound effect.
Right full rudder, all ahead two.
Finally, what I think really makes this sound incredibly effective is the fact that the rest of the soundscape in this film is so complex. Everything from large cannon fire to radio signals, sonar blips, the waves crashing, the wind howling. But this sound effect really actually stands out above all of the other sound effects. Aaron Schneider really gives it space, and he doesn't overuse it either. And I think that's incredibly effective because the waves and the sound of the wind and the cannons be too much to hear more nuanced sound within the film. Also, because this sound is actually quite high-pitched, it cuts really nicely through a lot of the lower-pitched waves and engine sounds and a lot of the lower-pitched soundtrack that's been placed on the film as well. So this is actually a very, very interesting choice, and I think it is incredibly effective. So, in conclusion, I think Aaron Schneider has done an incredible job with Tom Hanks's script. It's not got your quintessential story of a character who learns something and grows and is able to defeat the enemy at the end. Instead, it is a visceral experience of a film, and I thoroughly recommend you go watch it. Thank you for joining me today. If you found Greyhound just as inspiring as I did, don't forget to check out my Thursday episodes where I analyze films, and next week is going to be the Christmas episode, the Christmas special, where I'll be using my Instagram poll results to either analyze the ultimate Christmas film, Die Hard or Home Alone, who knows?